face of education has changed dramatically. I would say for Horry County Schools specifically in the last 3 years. We went from having a rich technology environment to having a state-of-the-art one-to-one initiative with each student in middle school having their own device, which was chosen as the iPad. So it has changed tremendously in what children have access to. When we first started, I think teachers were afraid of the technology to a certain degree because they had had success without the technology. Now, if a student doesn't have their iPad, they're like, oh, what do we do? So they've come to love the partnership that they have using all the digital tools and apps. We were not able to do differentiated instruction for students, particularly with reading levels, and meet all the needs of the students. And the technology has allowed us to do that and be able to target skills that students need to work on in addition to teaching standards in the curriculum for grade levels. So we rely heavily on technology at Blackwater Middle School.
We use a lot of technology to collect data. As a district, we have adaptive digital content that we use in English and math, and by adaptive that means that the content adjusts to how students answer questions. And if they're getting them right, the questions are going to continue to get harder, and if they get them wrong, they're going to get easier so that they can kind of find that sweet spot and figure out what kind of help and assistance they need. And so we have the luxury of that type of adaptive content in English and math. In English, we use what's called No Red Ink. It's a grammar program, and we use Achieve 3000, which is a reading comprehension practice program that meets students where they are based on their Lexile, and it adjusts monthly. And then in math, we use a program called ALEX, which hits every strand within the math curriculum, and they build their pie and they increase their number, they master their topics as they progress through the course. We also have other digital content that is not adaptive, which is used in science and social studies, like Discovery Techbook through Discovery Ed, and iTunes U, which are courses that have been created by the district. And within those, really the way that they're using that as a formative assessment is through the actual assessments. iTunes U has links to many assessments by indicator that the district has created on achievement series, and Discovery Techbook, the assessments are created based on the lesson. The teachers can use the results of all of these, whether they're adaptive or non-adaptive, to then determine mastery of indicators, and using that information they can group their students maybe into 2 or 3 groups. One group that has mastered the content and can kind of extend their learning and move on, one that may need a little more support, and one that's in greater need of support, and use that information to target mini lessons with those small groups in about a 20-30 minute setting, while others extend their learning or practice additional content on their digital resources. We also use a lot of formative assessment that is teacher-made. The formative assessment that comes along every day at the end of a lesson to make sure that students have actually mastered the content that they've taught. Those are the things that are teacher-driven. And they're going to use, typically with technology, they're going to use things like Socrative and probably Nearpod are our 2 most common that are being used by teachers.
We use Socrative in the 8th grade to judge everyone's progress on a certain standard. So you can look at, for instance, question 6. There was trouble on question 6. So since only 65% of the class got it right, as opposed to these where 100% got it right, it drives my instruction for the next day. I'll know that this question, how to do great compromise, solve the issue of how to elect representatives, I'll have to go over that again to check for greater understanding, and then I will put it on the next Socrative to check again. And the good thing about Socrative is that you get instant results. It's not something where you have to wait 2 weeks or till the unit's over. It's instantaneous.
Lots of different apps that are out there and resources that are going to give you information, but it's teacher-made, so it's directed towards specifically that lesson to decide whether or not you can move on the next day, or how quickly you can move on, or if we need to step back, or we need to review a specific concept with everybody or with just a small group. And so then that impacts our lesson planning from day to day may mean that you have to modify the plans that you had laid out for the week, or it could also impact how you move the following week and which groups you're going to pull. Sometimes you may see some groups more often because there's a greater need, but it gives the students that one-on-one attention. They tend to like to come into small group with teachers. Even at the middle school, they may want to save face and act like they don't want that kind of attention, but they really respond quite well to it. So we really are using two types of formative assessment, teacher-made and either program or district-made, that are based on standards and indicators. And all of that helps us not to teach to the middle all the time, and that way we're meeting the needs of all the students and trying to meet them where they are to push them up to grade level status.
Blended learning, I believe, began as a result of a way to increase engagement in learners. Children don't learn the same way that they did when I went to school, even 10 years ago. We as teachers were the holders of the knowledge, and with the involvement of technology, we're not the holders of the knowledge. The internet, children have access to knowledge and information at their fingertips 24 hours a day. So teachers are the facilitators of the learners and are teaching children how to navigate and use that technology to become better global citizens and prepare them for their life in the workplace.